What if one of the greatest songs ever almost slipped through history?
I wish you love.
Before global fame, I Will Always Love You was just a deeply personal goodbye that nearly took a very different path. In the early 1970s, Dolly Parton was ready to step out on her own, but that meant saying goodbye to the man who helped launch her career, Porter Wagoner.
If teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold.
After 7 years on the Porter Wagoner show, the split wasn't just professional, it also felt deeply personal. Dolly had outgrown the role and needed to chase her own career. But that decision came with heavy guilt. Walking away from the same stage that launched you felt like betraying. One night in 1973, overwhelmed with mixed emotions, she sat down and poured everything she was feeling into a song. That song was named I Will Always Love You. It was her gentle, heartfelt way of saying goodbye without burning the bridge. The next morning, she sang it directly to Wagoner. The outcome was something she must have never expected. Wagoner was reportedly bitter about her leaving, and the breakup between mentor and protege quickly became messy. Legal disputes followed, with Wagoner suing over their business partnership. The conflict was eventually settled, with Dolly agreeing to pay him $1 million over time. But that song she wrote was unstoppable.
Wish you love
Released in 1974 on her album Jolene, I Will Always Love You climbed straight to #1 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart. And few people realized it, but this deeply personal goodbye was quietly becoming one of the most powerful songs ever written. By the mid-1970s, the song had already made waves, but then came the moment that could have changed everything. Elvis Presley wanted to record I Will Always Love You. For most artists, that would have been a dream come true. Elvis had that knack of turning songs into legends. The type of reputation Elvis had, none would think twice to accept that offer. And like anyone else, Dolly was thrilled. She grew up idolizing him. Hearing that the king himself loved her song felt unreal. But the excitement didn't last. Behind the scenes, Elvis's powerful manager, Colonel Tom Parker, came with a hard demand. Elvis would record the song, but only if he received half of the publishing rights.
Parker calls me the day before and says, now you do know that Elvis is recording your song, and you do know that Elvis don't record anything that he don't publish, or at least get half the publishing on.
That was a deal breaker. Dolly had fought hard to keep ownership of her music. Giving up half the publishing meant losing long-term control and long-term money. Even though it broke her heart, she said no.
He said, well, then we can't record the song, and I was just heartbroken. I said, well, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that. So I didn't.
But that painful decision would prove to be one of the smartest moves of her career, because the song was about to find a completely different destiny. Nearly 2 decades later, the song remained in Dolly's catalog until Kevin Costner heard it. Costner was developing The Bodyguard, and from the start, he had one person in mind for the lead, Whitney Houston. The only problem was that Whitney was busy, and the studio wasn't even sure if she'd do the film. Costner didn't back off. He wanted Whitney to lead, and he made it happen.
It could have been Michelle Pfeiffer. It could have been Julia Roberts. It could have been anybody. But when I looked at it, I thought, no, it should be Whitney Houston.
He pushed the production to wait nearly a year until Whitney finally signed on. But once filming moved forward, another problem popped up. The movie still needed its emotional centerpiece song. Originally, the team planned to use What Becomes of the Brokenhearted. But when Paul Young released a new cover, the track suddenly lost its charm. So Costner went searching again. While scanning through songs, he landed on Dolly's I Will Always Love You. To many people in the room, it didn't make sense. It was a country ballad, and Whitney was famous for her pop performances.
It was your idea for her to sing the opening of that song a cappella.
Yeah. We had this relationship, and my promise was to protect her.
Even producer David Foster had doubts, especially about Costner's bold idea to start the song completely a cappella. Radio, he warned, might reject it. Costner showed the same determination.
But I said, if she's going to sing a song, the way she could really show that she really loved me was she would do it without a single note. And that will prove how brave she is.
His vision was simple: strip everything back and let Whitney's voice do the work. Eventually, Clive Davis signed off on the raw version. What happened next, nobody could have predicted. When Whitney Houston stepped into the booth, the song transformed into a masterpiece. That now iconic a cappella opening stopped listeners cold. Released in 1992 alongside The Bodyguard, Whitney's version exploded. The soundtrack to The Bodyguard went on to sell more than 45 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling movie soundtrack in history. And the single itself was unstoppable. I Will Always Love You sat at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 straight weeks, one of the longest runs ever at the time. Radio couldn't get enough, neither could the world. Back in Tennessee, Dolly Parton heard Whitney's version while driving home. She later admitted the moment hit so hard she nearly wrecked the car.
All of a sudden, it went into the I Will Always Love You part, and I had to pull off the side of the road, seriously, to listen to it. But it was one of the most overwhelming feelings.
But beyond the shock came the payoff. Because Dolly had protected her publishing years earlier, Whitney's massive success reportedly earned her between $6 and $10 million in royalties. This money was later used to buy back publishing rights and fund major charitable work. Dolly's heartfelt goodbye had now officially become one of the biggest songs on the planet. Even decades later, the song refuses to fade. After Whitney Houston passed away in 2012, her songs again became fan favorites. I Will Always Love You climbed onto the charts all over again. At the Grammy Awards, Jennifer Hudson delivered an emotional tribute performance that pushed the song back into the Billboard Top 10. But this time, it was getting popular amongst the next generation.
I wish you love.
But the song's cultural footprint goes way beyond awards. In the UK, the track once became the center of a bizarre neighborhood feud that reportedly ended with someone tossing a stereo out the window and even jail time. Proof that not everyone was emotionally ready for that key change. And in one of the most unexpected moments, Will Ferrell gave the song a completely different kind of spotlight when he belted it out during the University of Southern California commencement ceremony in 2017.
I will always love you.
Through heartbreak, tribute, drama, and even comedy, the song keeps finding new life. As Dolly Parton famously joked, "Give Whitney the credit, I just want the cash." I Will Always Love You proved one thing: the right song in the right voice at the right moment can live forever. If you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives like this, drop your next track in the comments.